What is your dream life like? Has fixing your memory and doing this extended? Because I've done a healthy amount of lucid dreaming. And by healthy, I mean non-healthy, like being obsessed. Creating and enhancing your dream recall is essential to even getting remotely close. That's the first thing that you have to do. If you can't remember your dreams, you will not be able to lucid dream. What has it done for you?
Well, I have a whole course on my dream adventures, which are very long to describe, but I've had dreams my entire life that were very intense. And at one point, I worked with a very controversial psychotherapist named Robert Langs. He's sadly passed away. But if anybody wants a rabbit hole, look up the psychotherapist Robert Langs, because that guy was wild. And he got me into dreaming very, very seriously. He has his wonderful books about dreaming, and it's very controversial, and I don't necessarily agree with every aspect of what he said about dreams. I practiced dream recall very, very intensely for many periods of my life, and I've kept journals of all my dreams, and I got to the point where I would have sometimes 15, 20 dreams a night and write them out in varying degrees of detail and so forth. And I've had lucid dreams. I personally prefer not to have lucid dreams because I spend all day in the illusion of control. Having more control while I'm asleep and being aware that I'm asleep just isn't that pleasing to me. So I don't actively try to remember my dreams anymore. But when I have dreams, I usually can remember them. But at one point, at the highest level of my experiments with dream recall, deliberate dream recall, I was waking up and placing dreams in memory palaces. And that was cool. That's pretty wild to do.
Placing dreams in memory palaces in order for you to remember it and recall it later on?
Yeah, well, one thing, speaking of lucid dreaming, one thing that really annoyed me is that what would wake me up is this impulse that I'd trained myself to do, to write down my dreams. So I would start to dream that I was writing down my dreams. So I thought I have to solve this problem because I'm not getting much sleep now. I'm just constantly waking up to write down my dreams. So I thought, well, what if I just look in the corner of the room where I'm sleeping and place an image that will help me remember the dream? And so that's what I started to do. So in the top right corner, I would place an image, and then like in the middle of the wall, I'd place an image, and then the top left corner. And that would allow me to get back to sleep without having to write down the dreams. And then my lucid dreaming started to change character a little bit, which was cool because it wouldn't initiate with, I'd find myself floating in a weird version of my bathroom, for example, and there would be no toilet in it or anything. And it would be a concave dip in the floor, and I'd be writing in my journal. I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh my God, I got to write down all these dreams. But then I started having way different lucid dreams. Like I would wake up in a spaceship way out in the outer edges of the universe, or I'd be tiptoeing on I remember one where I was on a power line. Like all these wild things that just didn't have anything to do with writing. So that was cool.
That's very, very fascinating.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, because somebody that's such a adept at dream work and stuff, and it's funny because the word 𝗪𝗓𝗡. Have you heard this term? An 𝗪𝗓𝗡. It's fascinating. So that is what you are. Any of us that have taken the time to kind of map out, learn, explore.
𝗪𝗓𝗡,
yes. Yeah. There's always this debate that I find fascinating that, of course, I don't know that we as humans will get to the bottom of while we're here on Earth, but there's a separation for some people, whereas what is the dream space? Is it real? Does it exist as something outside of this reality that we consider here? And does it exist as a collective, right? Where you were at with your spaceship, could I go there at that same place, check it out, and come back and say, oh yeah, did you see the picture on the wall?
Well, you're doing it right now, right?
Well, yeah, technically, to some degree. Mm. My question is, you're familiar with astral projection, let's say, or out-of-body experiences. I don't know if you've ever experienced that phenomenon to any degree.
Oh, yeah.
But my question was just going to be, do you find a separation in those experiences? Do you feel that phenomenon is different than the dream phenomenon itself?
Yes, no, maybe. So, I mean, to me, they're evidence of non-separation. And I mean, just to conclude on the dreaming thing, the main thing that I got out of dreaming was realizing that the fantasy is almost always. And there is no sort of distinction between the fantasy at night and the fantasy in the day. And that's another thing that Robert Langs is quite good at for people who want to look into his stuff. is, he has a daydream workbook, and it really helps you get into like what's going on when you're daydreaming. But training so much to remember dreams kind of clues you in to when you're lost in daydreaming. And it's really cool when you start to realize that. And then you can think about what your fantasies are responses to. So his theory was that it's like always derived, or not always, but usually derived out of like 3 different kinds of anxiety. So predator anxiety, prey anxiety, or existential anxiety. I read 44 of his books, and I don't remember any of them having some positive trigger, but it's always this anxiety-derived stuff. In terms of out-of-body stuff and astral projection and so forth, I have had those experiences where, it happened not that long ago. I was just laying in bed, and all of a sudden I'm on the Sahara, and this a lion, and I was like, what the hell is that sort of thing? And I don't buy it for a second that I was actually out in the Sahara, but it's wild, right? Is it because a portal opened or what have you? I don't know. I was just chilling out, relaxing, and something weird happened. So, but I don't make too much out of it. Nelson Dellis, who I think he won the USA Memory Championship 5 times. He was on my podcast some time ago. And he was talking about how he's getting into all of these experiences and experiments. I gave him the challenge, like if it's really going to work, then get rich and get so rich that you're going to fund the charity that cures cancer or what have you. And
sure.
Like I really lay down the gauntlet on that stuff because I'm just simply not interested in whether it works or not unless somebody is using the most massive bags of cash to the most prominent problems. And instead of tinkering around with AI plagiarism, right? Why don't they just solve how I can get my emails delivered to people's inboxes? Like, it's just like so much of the human imagination is being directed to what? Like, why aren't we solving just simple stuff instead of all this endless fantasy stuff? Speaking of being caught in the dream, right? Sorry if I have like this very, very high standard, but I wonder why others don't.